So even though we never trained for this, in flight simulators at the airline, it was not possible to practice a water landing. They aren't programmed for it. The only training we'd ever gotten for a water landing was a theoretical classroom discussion. Having flown into New York many times, I knew that there were only three options. There were only two runways that might be reachable. It turned out with reaction time they were not. And the only other place in the entire New York metro area, one of the most densely developed areas on the planet where it might be possible to even try landing a large jet airliner, would be the Hudson River. I took control of the aircraft, made one distress call, worked with the air traffic controller, considered returning to LaGuardia, decided it was unreachable, considered trying to reach the Teterboro Airport in New Jersey across the river, decided that was not reachable either. And I told the controller we were going to be in the Hudson. Our first officer, Jeff Skiles, I couldn't have had a better colleague that day or since. In a situation where the time pressure and the workload were so intense, we didn't have time even to talk about what had happened and what we should do about it. He and I were able to collaborate wordlessly by knowing intuitively in this developing crisis what we should do to help the other based on our own long experience. So he made an important suggestion at several points in the flight. He was silently cheering me on as I made each decision, but ready to intervene to check my performance if he thought I was making an error. I had a chance before the landing. I asked Jeff Skiles a question. I said, "Got any ideas?" Now, some think that was a flippant remark, but it was not at all. It was just an indication of how deeply internalized these team skills are that I used to teach. I was saying to him, and he understood in context exactly what I meant, I've done everything I can think of that can help us. Are there any other actions that we can take that you can think of that would help us succeed even by a fraction? And Jeff's answer was, actually not. And he answered just like that. Not at all because he was being insouciant or not because he was resigned to an ineluctable fate. Far from it, we were fighting to save every life to the very end. He answered that way because he knew we'd done all we could. The fact that we could have that exchange just before the emergency landing of a lifetime is one of the more remarkable things about this flight and this crew and our diligence, our dedication to never give up, to try to save every life, to do everything we possibly could. And then finally, as we were approaching the water, again, Jeff collaborated with me wordlessly. So Jeff began to call out to me airspeed and altitude as I was looking at the water ahead to help me judge that critical height. And we were coming down so rapidly, if I misjudged it even by a fraction, we might start too soon and get too slow and hit hard, or start too late and descend into the water too rapidly in the wrong attitude. As we hit hard, but the deceleration while rapid was uniform. And based upon the forces that Jeff and I felt in the cockpit as we slowed to the stop, it was obvious that the airplane was intact, it was stable, it was floating, and people were probably still okay at that point. And in the most amazing coincidence, Jeff and I turned to each other at that moment, at the same time, using the same words, said, "Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought." But we weren't high-fiving. We still had to get 155 people out of an airplane taking on water in a river in January. I opened the cockpit door and shouted one word, evacuate. The evacuation went fairly quickly. Passengers and crew worked together to help out an elderly woman who had been boarded in a wheelchair. They helped a young family of four, including a mother with a 9-month-old child. And by the time I left the airplane as the last one off, the New York waterway ferries were all around us and the rescue was well underway. But it was an agonizing 4 hours until I finally received word officially that everyone was accounted for. And only then were my immediate duties completed, when everyone was safe.